Hi math students, this is our introduction video for our lesson on order of operations. I want to start with what is order of operations. Order of operations is going to be a tool we use for when we have a math problem with more than one operation. So for example, a problem like this, where maybe you have addition and multiplication. Order of operations is important because depending on the order you do the math, you can get different answers. For example, for this problem here, if I add first, 3 plus 5 is 8, 8 times 2 gives me 16. But if I multiply first, 3 plus 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 plus 3 is 13. So we see we get different answers depending on the order we do the problem. And today's lesson is all about the correct order we always need to do these problems. PEMDAS is what we use to help us remember the correct order. So PEMDAS. The P in PEMDAS stands for parentheses. Parentheses are these right here, or you might also see sometimes brackets. That means anytime you have a math problem in parentheses, like maybe 2 plus 1 inside those parentheses, that is what you need to do first. After any parentheses in the problem, we need to do our exponents. We learned about exponents back in Unit 2. For example, exponents look like this, that tiny little number there. And so the next thing we look for in our math problem is any exponents, and we do that math next. The M and D in PEMDAS stand for multiply and divide. And so the next thing you look for in these math problems is any multiplication or division. The part with order of operations in PEMDAS that gets forgotten the most is that if you have both of these, you always start whichever one is on the left and go right. So for example, if I gave you the problem 10 times 2 divided by 5, for this problem, I have both, so I would go left to right. I do my multiplication first and then my division. But if it looked like this, same thing, we go left to right. So for this problem, I'm doing the division first and then the multiplication. You start with whichever one comes first in the problem from going left to right. A and S will be the same way. A and S mean add and subtract. And I have them together in the same line because it's got that same rule about left to right. So for example, if this is my problem, I would do 2 plus 3 first and then subtract second. But if this was my problem, I would be subtracting first and then adding second. It's left to right. Make sure you've got that left to right part in your notes. And so looking back down there at those examples, we saw for this first problem, there were 2 different answers I got depending on where I started, but there is only one correct answer because there's only one correct order to do this problem. Now that we know PEMDAS, I would look at this problem. I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any exponents. So that means the very first thing I need to do in this problem is going to be our multiplication. I would want to start here and say, well, 5 times 2 is 10. And for these problems, you always do one step, one piece of math, and then copy everything else down. So I copy my addition. And then I can do the addition last. I can say 3 plus 10 gives me 13 for my answer. This problem here isn't too bad because there's only 2 operations, addition and multiplication, but this can be very helpful for problems like this that are a lot bigger. So again, I always like to write this here to help me remember the order I need to do the problem. And for this problem, where would I want to start first? Our parentheses. So that means inside the parentheses, the 8 minus 5, that is where I begin, and then I copy everything else down. I copy the rest of my problem. So my 1, my minus 4, my 8 minus 5 became 3, and then I copy my plus 2, and then I keep going. I'm looking, I don't see exponents, but I do see some multiplication. That 4 next to parentheses, remember that means multiplication. So I'm going to do that next. I could say that gives me 12 when I multiply. I've done my one thing, so I copy everything else down. Copy my 1, my minus sign, my plus, and my 2. Now all that is left is my addition and subtraction. Looking at this problem, it has both. Which one should I do first? Well, in this problem, since we have both, remember we want to go left to right. In this problem, the first one is subtraction. So I begin here. 1 minus 12 gives me negative 11. Remember different signs, we subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. And then I can copy my plus 2. And then my final answer, all that's left to do is my negative 11 plus 2 and different signs, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number, and I have the answer negative 9. Today's lesson, we are going to be practicing problems that look like these a lot. So a lot of practice using PEMDAS to make sure you're feeling nice and confident. That is everything for this introduction video. You are ready for today's lesson.